The letter of Paul to the Philippians, chapter 4. We will be reading from verse 4 to verse 9. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say, rejoice. Let your great gentleness be known to everyone. The Lord is near. Do not worry about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your request be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your heart, your mind in Christ Jesus. Finally, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable. If there is any excellence, and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Keep on doing the things that you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, and the God of peace will be with you. Have you noticed that in June this year, 2022, the United Nations agreed to change the Republic of Turkey's country name from Turkey, T-U-R-K-E-Y, to Turkey, T-U-R-K-I-Y-E, Turkey. And that U has a umlaut above it, just like a German U. Turkey. From Turkey to Turkey. That happened sometime in early June this year. One of the reasons for this change, at least, that's what we were told, is that the country name Turkey is too often associated with the North American Thanksgiving holiday. But I strongly suspect, that the real reason behind this change must be that the Turkish people do not want their country name to be associated with a bird that cannot even fly. Recently I read an article written by the famous Canadian author and also radio show host, Fred McGuinness. That article was about Turkey. In that article, the author says, in addition to not flying, Turkey is also one of the least intelligent creatures on Earth. Do you know that? One of the least intelligent creatures on Earth. And the author gives examples. It says that, turkeys can have trouble doing, even the simplest things. They have troubles doing even that. For example, turkeys have been known to starve to death next to a mountain of food. Standing beside, pile of food, but, turkeys are dumb they are dumb enough not to even eat it. But other times, turkeys will eat so much, so quickly, that they die by choking. Drinking water can be a problem for turkeys too. If a turkey is looking up, in the sky, when it starts to rain and its mouth is open, they can die. They are often not smart enough to close their mouths in the rain, and so they can drown themselves standing up. So as you see, even eating, even drinking can put a strain on turkey intelligence. Brothers and sisters, I know eating and drinking won't put a strain on your intelligence. But what about giving thanks? Eating and drinking should not be a problem for all of you. But what about giving thanks? Is giving thanks a strain on your intelligence? Think about it. How easy can you manage this thing called giving thanks? This morning, I give you an opportunity not to be a turkey, which I mean not to have a strain on your intelligence about giving thanks. This morning, you can do just that. This Thanksgiving, you can avoid being a turkey in matter of giving thanks by doing two things. These two things are very similar because they have the same kind of language origin. They are think and thank. T-H-I-N-K, think and thank, giving thanks. In English, both word think and the word thank come from the same root. This is Old English. Unless you are a linguistic, you do not know this, but I tell you, both think and thank have the same origin and the same root, and that root is T-O-N-G, tong. In Old English, T-O-N-G means feel, to feel, feeling, okay? To think is to feel. To give thanks is also to feel something, using your heart. Our reading this morning is from Paul's letter to the church of Philippi, known as the Philippians. This is Paul's letter of thanksgiving, I must emphasize, because in its concluding part, which we read this morning, Paul urges his readers to do two things, think and thank. Because Paul says, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is anything excellent, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about those things. Think about those wonderful things. According to Paul, if we can do constantly thinking about those things, those wonderful, nice things, then we shall have no difficulties, rejoicing and giving thanks to God. Think and thank are related according to Paul. Of course, Paul does not know about linguistics. He does not know think and thank in English actually have the same origin. But somehow he has this wisdom of advising the Philippians to think. If you can think those nice things, you can give thanks. I think that's a wonderful idea as we celebrate the Thanksgiving Sunday. Let us try to do the same thing this morning. How about we begin with easy ones? Think and thank. Let us begin with easy ones. Obviously, we are all blessed, I believe, all of us, and even on Zoom. We are all blessed that we have plenty to eat. And sometimes even too much, I know. And we are all blessed that we can go home to a wonderful, comfortable house. And we don't have to sleep in a shelter or on the street. I don't believe that any of us, I know, members of this church, I do not know of anybody who suffers from lack of food, lack of housing, has to sleep on street. No, and I consider that a blessing, and that is obvious reasons why we give thanks. That's easy ones. How about let us move one step further into more difficult ones. Maybe some of us have this morning have been healed from an illness or recover from a recent surgery. Maybe there have been good things that have happened this year, like you celebrate new members, adding new members, grandchildren to your house. Those are things that we give thanks. Now, how about we move on to blessings that are not so obvious and even more difficult to acknowledge? Can we, for example, give thanks to God this Thanksgiving season, not only for the good things that happened, but also for the bad things that did not happen? But you have worried about those things. Actually, they did not happen. Or can we give thanks to God for the problems and the disasters that we worry about, which did not come about? Those are the moments that we should give thanks. And finally, can we go one step even further and give thanks to God for the problems that we do face? Let me give you an example. I know this, final, request is very difficult. Give thanks to God for the problems that you have encountered. Let me give you one example. George Matheson. Reverend George Matheson was a Scottish pastor, and he was also a famous hymn writer. But do you know what? He was blind from the age of 17. I consider people like this very unfortunate. If you were born blind, you have never seen this world, you do not even know what it was like, then, well, it is dark. But there are people who were born healthy, they can see. But all of a sudden, something happened, accident happened, and they lost their sight. Like George Matheson, at age of 17, young, vibrant, and all of a sudden the world changed upside down, from brightness to darkness. He was known famously among his colleagues as the blind preacher who can see quite well. His colleagues gave him this name: a pastor, a blind preacher who can see quite well. Mason once said, "I have thanked God 1,000 times for my roses. Now, since I was blind, I was trying to learn to thank God for my thorns." Roses, beautiful roses. The only, drawback, the downside, is that roses have thorns. So Matheson says, I have thanked God for 1,000 times for roses, but now I have to learn how to give thanks to God for thorns. Blindness, of course, is a pretty hard thorn to endure. But in the end, Matheson found his lack of sight forced him to become a better listener. This is what he said: "My blindness make me a better listener, make me more patient with others, make me more willing to receive the help from others." This is not easy, to receive help from others. Some people, they have their dignity, they have their ego or pride too much. They refuse to be helped by others. George Matheson said, "My blindness gave me the opportunity to learn how to receive help from others, and also to understand better people's sufferings." Sometimes we can only think of, how sad, how miserable being blind. But George Matheson can give thanks to God because he can find so many good things about being blind. That is what I call give thanks to God, even for the bad things that happen to you, but eventually strengthen you in a different way. This Thanksgiving, I say this to you. Eat your turkey, but don't become a turkey. Eat your turkey, but don't become a turkey. I mean, don't become a person, experiencing a strain in their intelligence because of giving thanks to God. Don't allow giving thanks to God becoming a strain on your intelligence. That's what I mean. Eat your turkey, but don't become a turkey. With that, I say to you, happy Thanksgiving. Think and thank. I will now move on to the Taiwanese congregation.